and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello and welcome to 9 to 42, which is the podcast from the guys at the Guitar Show and the Bass Show. That's right, Jason.
That's right, mate. You're getting it.
Every single episode this series, because I was editing the one the other day, the Guitar Auction one the other day, which still says the Guitar Show, the Bass Show, and I could sense I was feeling uncomfortable. It's the way you watch me as I do the delivery of the intro. It worries me. Anyway, how are you, my friend?
I'm very good, thank you. Very good indeed.
Are you really very good?
No.
Okay.
But we won't talk about solicitors and how lazy they are in general.
Okay. And we won't talk about listed buildings either.
No.
By the way, if you're out there and you know how to find a list with a listed building on it, that would be information that most solicitors would like. So put it in an envelope and shove it through a solicitor's door. You will be doing a public service. We have got with us today Ace, the guitarist from Skunk Anansie.
Hello.
And he's joined us to talk about anything and everything we can think of. How are you, Ace? How's your day going?
I'm really good, actually, thanks. I've been working. I have like various different jobs. And so I've kind of finished for the afternoon. The sun's come out and I'm a free man now. I'm a free man.
Okay, first thing I'm going to ask, because I ask the lowbrow questions when we talk. Jace asks the highbrow, and I'm always dragging it down to the kind of thing people want to know but don't want to ask. Does everybody call you Ace?
They do.
Mum included?
Not my mum, right? But that's because I haven't lived at home for a long time, right? But everyone else does, because it was a name that was just a nickname that was given to me 30, 40 years ago. So from then on, that's all I've ever been known as, to be honest.
Right. So even when you're doing education-y stuff,
yeah,
and everything like that. So if you're called into the principal's office,
yeah,
to do your once-a-year appraisal, that starts with, "All right, Ace, let's dig into how your year's been."
Yeah, totally. My email is ace at, and all that lot. Yeah, because to be honest, it's like that's no one's ever known me as anything else. So, it's kind of, I suppose it's good because if you ring up and you say, "Hi, it's Tom. I want to," and they go, "Tom who? What?" And you go, "Hi, it's Ace. I want to talk about," and they go, "Oh, it's Ace. Hello, Ace." So you're instantly recognizable when you want to ring people up. So it works for me in that sense.
I'm just delighted you're okay. I mean, we've lost two aces in the rock world in the last week.
Oh, yeah. Ace Fincham from Tiger Tales, isn't he?
Yeah.
And Ace Frehley. And I'm actually, you know what? About this is an interesting fact, right? Whether it's true or not, it's probably more true than Instagram. But about 20 years ago, one of the most popular names for boys in America was Ace. It was like one of the popular names of the year, right? So now, like kids around about 19, 20 are popping up with this name, right? And other people. And I was at the college the other day, and one of the new students, well, he's a second year now, is called Ace. It's his real name. And I go, "Oh, hello, Ace. How are you?" And he goes, "Hi, Ace. How are you?" So that's kind of interesting. And then we got someone come in the other day to do I think it was a music supervisor or something, like a masterclass, and it was a lady, and she was called Ace.
Wow.
Right? Who's like in the probably early 20s or something like that. So it's a thing. It exists now, you see. Back in the day, me and Ace Fincham, we were like the only British representatives,
Is this, do you reckon this is the children of Kiss fans?
It could be, couldn't it? It could be. But, I don't know, maybe of 20 years ago. Could be.
Or, to throw it in the mix, Doctor Who had a companion called Ace.
Did he?
Yes. I think it was Sylvester McCoy's Doctor Who. One of his companions was called Ace. So it could be the parents of late Doctor Who.
That's true. Is Sylvester McCoy really kind of like renowned as a real Doctor Who, though? Back in the, I know that I don't know a lot about Doctor Who, but I know like there's pivotal moments in Doctor Who, like Tom Baker, right? John Pertwee, right?
Yeah.
David Tennant.
Yes, absolutely.
He's kind of up there, right? Yeah. Who's the other ones that have made an impact?
Well, Sylvester McCoy is one of the ones that didn't.
Yeah, there's a bunch, isn't there? There's a bunch. I kind of lost touch a few years. The only reason I know about Doctor Who is because obviously I was born in that era, and then my son used to love it and used to hide behind the sofa when like the Cybermen, all that, the ones that look like a giant kind of toad with hair things popped up. He was always hiding. So that's my
Maybe,
Doctor Who story.
maybe the aces, which would more than likely be female, are they're hardcore Doctor Who parents.
Yeah.
When the person shouting at a gig for the obscure album track.
Yes, yeah,
Sylvester McCoy is an obscure album track in Doctor
Yeah,
Who
that's
world.
true.
I would
That's
imagine.
true. That's true. But anyway, that's all my knowledge of Doctor Who. I don't know much about Doctor Who. I never actually watched TV, to be honest. I think this is why I'm so productive as a kind of creative, right? I only watch TV maybe once every couple of weeks. And if I do, I only watch like documentaries and factual stuff. I'm really terrible on, when people talk about actors and actresses and all these people like that, and they talk about these names, I have no idea who they are, most of them. I only know people from like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something
Yeah.
like that, from that time of era. But all the new stuff, I don't really see any new films, and I don't really, I don't watch any Netflix series or anything. I just don't have time. I'm concentrating on music when I have any spare time, and the rest of the time I'm either working or on tour. And so I would rather do something that is creative in this complete digital world than actually sit down and watch TV. But if I do watch TV, I watch documentaries, and I watch loads of music documentaries over the years. That's my favorite thing.
Well, I can, as someone that also watches a lot of music documentaries, I can strongly recommend that you avoid 90% of them on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Those ones are about 50 minutes long, like the AC/DC one or
Yeah,
Randy Rhodes or
yeah,
Robert Johnson. I've seen them. I've seen
yeah.
them all.
They're terrible, aren't they?
They're terrible. They're terrible. But you know what? They have a couple of good ones. Gimme Danger is really good, the Iggy
Yeah,
Pop one. I
yeah.
like that recently. I think that was on Prime. I mean, I swap between Netflix doesn't have a lot actually of really good music documentaries. When it does, it does. But I mean, I'll watch any kind of genre from Anvil to Taylor Swift. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
just like I like the way people are like in the how the business works around them and all that type of thing. The only thing that turns me off a music documentary if it's like a real ego-driven thing. Like there's some of there's some of the big pop singers, and it's literally some kind of promo about them, and I'm like, oh, I'm not interested in this. I don't want to see your kind of like ego promo. I want to see how it works, how people got successful, how they maintain stuff. That interests me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. So I watched this is quite a few years ago now, but the Lady Gaga one that was
Yeah,
out
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
that I found really annoying because like you say, it seemed to me like an ego driven sort of thing. And I also watched the Katy Perry one, which I thought was really good.
Yeah. I like that one. I even like the Justin Timberlake one. I thought that was really good. The early one that he made, I thought it was really good. But I thought, what was amazing? I love some of the amazing facts that you don't know. Like the Gimme Danger one, right? It was about Stooges, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
Iggy Pop, right? James Williamson is in the Stooges right at the beginning, right? And he does his thing and he leaves, right? And he goes and gets a proper job in Silicon Valley, right? All the rest of them do their thing, become cab drivers, they all die from overdoses, right? And then there's Iggy Pop left at the end. So what happens is James Williams has this amazing career where he has a family and he makes money and they've got a pension and he gets right to the top. He retires from that job. So he's done his whole career job, retires, and then he joins the Stooges again, right? And he's all fit and healthy and he can play the guitar, right? And all that. And I'm like, that's awesome. Isn't that awesome that you can go like 30 years later or something and rejoin the Stooges in a really good condition and go out and play those gigs again? I thought that was like the rock and roll story of the century.
What I liked as well was I really like this sounds horrible, but it's quite a primitive way of playing the guitar.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
But when he rejoined the Stooges, whenever it was, the 2000s or whatever, however much better he got, and I'm sure he had in the 30, 40 years that he'd not been playing, he still managed to replicate that very primitive sound.
That's because he hadn't been practicing, had he? He didn't practice for 30 years while he was doing his thing. He just picked it back up and goes, give me a twin and a so-and-so and let's just bash out this stuff again. So yeah, it works though, doesn't it? Because if he was too good, it would be like, he'd come and start playing a Steve Vai riff right?
Yeah.
And then it wouldn't feel like the Stooges. But I thought it was a really good rock and roll story. That I thought it was, and Iggy Pop was really accepting of him coming back into the fold and doing it. And I thought, how cool is that? That someone could actually, I've never heard that happen anywhere else in music. Do you know, you hear people coming and going, but not in that way, you know?
No, actually, no. Have you watched the New York Doll?
I watched one documentary on them.
So the New York Doll is about the bass player Arthur Kane, who when the Dolls split up in 74, 75, whenever it was, he tried one more band that didn't go anywhere. So by the end of the 70s, he'd moved to Utah, joined the Mormon Church, and was a librarian.
Sounds very familiar, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, and when they reformed, when Morrissey got them to reform for the South Bank Festival or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And a couple of the guys from, can't remember, the British indie band played drums and guitar for them. I can't remember which one it is. But when he got them to reform, they went and found him working in the library. And of course, you know, the Dolls are about as outrageous as you can get in terms of like fashion choices.
Yeah.
And when they meet him, he's like wearing like a jumper and a shirt and like shuffling around this library.
You know, I actually read loads and loads of music music biographies, right? So rather than watching stuff, as I said, I rarely watch any TV. We're talking about TV all the time, but I don't really watch it. But I do read a lot of biographies. You know, I actually read one on the New York Dolls and about Malcolm McLaren managing them. And it was, they never really were successful, were they, that band?
No.
But they're mythical, aren't
Yeah.
they? But they never really had a hit and they made money or anything like that. They all fizzled out, you know, and all that type of thing. And the guy was offered the place in the Sex Pistols, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think it was Sylvian, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but he kind of came over and it didn't work out, whatever. But yeah, that's a really interesting story, the New York Dolls. But I'm fascinated by rock and roll business, I suppose, you know. And I am actually a professor. I'm a bona fide professor of music industry. Right, that's my real title, Professor Ace.
Professor
So,
Ace.
yeah, believe it or not, I am a actual bona fide professor, and I tend with the band, I do a lot of the business stuff with the band as well, you know, and working on that side of things. So I'm really interested in like that side of it. That's why when I read all these biographies, I like to know about not like we made this in the studio. I like to know how they did their deals and how they kind of went up and down. The Guns N' Roses book is good for that. The Duff one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a good book for that, you know, and he, you know, obviously it's all, I was this terrible strung out person. Now I'm a multi-millionaire from investing in Starbucks and things like that. So, you know, I'm fascinated by that, you know, and I play the guitar every now and then as well.
Well, I was going to ask, 'cause I've got a piece of paper here with sort of like notes on to talk to you about, and it's split. It is literally split in the middle, and like half of it is about education with the professor thing, because obviously you've worked for ACM, BIM, ICMP, SAE.
Yeah.
You've got your own academy. And when we met a couple of weeks ago, you were talking about you're going off to do a tour of some Asian countries, guitar clinics and so on.
Yeah. I'm going to South Korea next week. So that's really interesting because I'm hitting like all the major universities and large academies. And you know what I do there, I go there for ICMP and SAE. That's who I work for as a, you know, not a tutor. I kind of work I'm the head of industry brands and partnerships there. So I work with a lot of industry people. So, but at the same time, I'm also the guitarist in Skunk Anansie. So what I do is I go over and I meet the heads of the program leaders and the college people and the tutors, things like that. But at the same time, I will do a special guest guitar masterclass for the performance students over there because Skunk's kind of, you know, it's relatively known over there as well. So for them, it's a bit of a kind of bonus. It's like, they get to meet me. They kind of get a masterclass. We play, we do all these type of things. And at the same time, I get to talk to all the different people in the colleges about students coming to England, about different types of software deals, all that kind of stuff. So it's like a working pleasure type of trip. But I do love it. It's basically South Korea. It's Seoul, and Seoul's really big, and it kind of goes out to Incheon and all this type of stuff. So they have lots of these major kind of like colleges and academies. And the one thing about them is all of their students are amazing. The players are just off the scale. They're just amazing. And you can jam with them, play with them, any song, anything like that, and they're just incredible, really amazing.
So what do you when you're doing your master classes?
Hmm.
What are the sort of things you talk about? Because on the other side of the list, I've got all of the jobs that I found that you've done over the years. So guitarist, songwriter, producer, journalist, clothing
Yeah.
brand. But I'm assuming, and I'd forgotten because I was on your website and I clicked the journalism thing, and I'd forgotten because I've been reading guitarists for a billion years.
Yeah.
You used to write a column on pedals for them, didn't you?
I did. I did with really strange language. I used to make up the names of words that describe the sounds, like a bubblicious tractor trail of mud pies or something like this, things like that. Yeah. So, the journalist thing. I mean, what it is like as a musician, right? Sometimes it's sink or swim, right? And other times it's opportunities. And what you have to do is you have to have more than one job. And my kind of like theory is if you're going to have more than one job around music, make it about music. But for me, I would rather have only one main one playing it. So I try to do these different things around it that aren't actually going out and gigging. So it means I don't have to play shows all of the time. So the pedal thing was like we were recording and playing a lot, and at the time, pedals were not so in vogue. So this is 30 years ago. And a lot of people on racks, and they had all the G systems and the ADAs and all that, all that stuff. And so I was really in the pedal world, and I'd grown up in that sense. And so I was going around America and I was picking up all these weird and wonderful things for like $50 in a pawn shop before eBay, isn't it? When people didn't know what they cost and they were kind of pointless to a lot of people. So I was picking up all these old electro harmonics and stuff that you couldn't really buy in England, no one had known about. And I was using them on recordings, and I started to do some stuff for like Guitar Magazine interviews about this. And so I got renowned as this kind of pedal guy, right, back in the day. And so then guitarist said to me, would you write a column on a pedal for us? Because I've written a couple of little bits and pieces for them. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I did that one. And they got a really good response. So they just said, can you carry on? So I did it for 5 years. I wrote it for free. It was just a fun thing. And I just, I wrote about all the stuff I had, and then I started to run out. So I went into town and I used to know the people in the shops, and Vintage and Rare used to be in Denmark Street. It's No Tom now. And I used to know the guys in there. So I used to go in and we used to get something out of the cabinet. And that was really weird, that was new, handmade stuff, and take a little photo and try it out, and I'd write it. So I did it for 5 years, and then after about 5 years, I just said to them, guys, I've just run out of pedals, right? So the next thing I did after that was how to record your own album or produce an album, because I was producing records at that time. So I did that, and now I just pop back in between Guitarist and Music Radar whenever they ask me to do something. I think they asked me to do something on John Lennon a while back and things like that. So I just pop in and out. I'm like, yeah, I'll write you a little thing. But I did actually write a couple of books as well from kind of the back end of learning that trade of kind of the use of instructional language. You know what I mean? Simple, basic stuff. What I learned from writing was how to take something that's quite complex and make it really simple. And then from that, that's how I learned to I wrote a book on music business for kids, which I sold to somebody else. And I also wrote my Guitar Academy as well.
Wow, it's no wonder you don't watch TV.
No, I ain't got time. I ain't got time.
Just a quick one before Jace jumps in again. Are you still not getting paid for all that stuff that you do, or do you require payment now?
Well, you know what? I think this is a passion-led industry, right?
Yeah.
And so you do some stuff for passion, you do some stuff as a kind of a trade, if you know what I mean. So it's a bit like, some people want to do stuff, but they haven't got any money, but they might say, if you do this for me, I will give you this, right? So I do jobs like that. So people will say, can you do this of go to a trade show, play on the stand or whatever, or can you make a video with so-and-so in the studio playing this guitar, whatever, and we'll sort you out something for it, right? So you're kind of in one way kind of earning, aren't you? Because you want some gear to go in your studio or something like that. So it works in that sense. So There's a bit of that going on. Other stuff is like I just do it because I've got the time and I really like it. I love pedals. They're fun. It's a passion thing. Someone asks me to write a piece on pedals, I'll always write it for nothing because it doesn't take me long and it's really easy. And then, other things where, it's a proper job. Yeah, it takes time, it's effort. You do want to get paid because my theory is I'm not really mercenary, but it's like I do so much stuff now that if someone's saying to me, "Oh, can you do this complicated job for me for nothing?" I'm a bit like, dude, I'd rather have the day off. Do you know what I mean? Right? And if they go, "Can you do this complicated job for me and we'll pay you some money?" I'll go, maybe I won't take that day off. So, because musicians say you need to have multiple income streams,
Yeah.
So, and I have lots of them, and some of them make nothing, and some of them make a little bit, and others pay the way for me to live.
So, how do you then, with your professor title, right? How do you then explain that to your students?
Well, I don't teach anymore. Right, but what I don't teach because I'm head of industry and like brand partnerships, right? So I work with companies like Marshall and PRS Guitars and Boss, Roland, all these people, and that's what I do as my job in the college, right? I used to teach. And when I used to teach, I used to teach music business, but only at a Cert HE, so it's not a degree. And I used to do the degree of live performance. So live performance is all about groove feel, learning songs, playing together, ensembles, right? So that's a different thing in itself. And music business back in the day was about, touching the surface of publishing deals, record
Right.
deals, all that kind of thing, right? So, but I do see students, right, because I'm in the college, and every now and then someone will pull me over and ask me some questions. And I always explain to them, you need to create a flexible kind of multiple income stream around yourself as a musician because, you can do a lot of stuff for free and it really works for you because you're building yourself and a network, but you can't survive off that, right? So you have to make sure that you do some stuff that is kind of paid. And that's so I'm always kind of bringing that issue to people. But if I do master classes, I do one or two things. I either go songwriting slash technique. So this is the way I play, right? I don't really play guitar. I just operate heavy machinery, right? That's what I do. So I say this is the way I play, but the way I play is related to writing songs, and these are the kind of songs I write, and this is how I do it. And I break it down and I play them through the stems and I play the songs, so they can see how something very simple played really well works in a band that writes songs and have hits off songs, right? So hang on, I'm just getting blinded by the sun. Let me just move over a little bit. There we go. Um, so that's the kind of thing that I do. I kind of teach people to create their own kind of industry, through doing music. And every now and then I do a business masterclass if I'm going to a college or something, like a sixth form college, or when I was in Korea, I did some for the K-pop places where I will talk about having your own record label, signing major deals, signing, independent deals, management companies. I know all of that stuff, the percentages and how deals work and lawyers. And I know all of that stuff really well. So every now and then I'll do that, but I have to break it down. I have to make it simple because, when you're talking to young people, like literally information is like you need nuggets, not
Yeah.
reams of it,
The only reason for asking you that, and yeah, I wasn't laughing. It was just the way you said that. I don't teach students anymore. But the I was in a room the other day. I was hosting an event the other day, and we had the guy in there who runs an organisation called Plaza. Now, Plaza represent all those companies that basically put on live gigs.
Yes,
So
I've been
staging-
to Plaza, yeah.
Yeah. So, and he was saying that one of the issues at the moment is that a lot of people who come their way to work in the industry arrive with a qualification, but they don't really understand what it means to earn a living as a sound engineer or as working as a crew or all those kind of things. They arrive and find that actually it doesn't start at 9 in the morning and finish at 5 in the afternoon. That's not how gigs work. And he was talking about the need for that explanation to be fed into the education system. So actually, when people come out, they understand. And it was when you said about the things that you do for free and the things that you charge for and the things that you'll do as a quid pro quo, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And that needs to feed its way in. That was what kind of sat behind the question, because obviously part of the world you live in is about preparing people for having that kind of multi-income stream, flexible career that will do them from the age of 20 odd to hopefully 60 odd.
Yeah,
I can answer that question because, like Ace, I've worked for BIM. I worked for BIM for 14 years or something, teaching on the music business and event management degrees. Those students fully understand how the industry works. The performance students, it's not really written into their degrees, and a lot of the performance students end up doing live sound because they kind of experienced that throughout the 3 years of their degree. And the amount of, I used to teach a module in the third year, which was it used to be called Final Project. I can't remember what it's called now, or Pro Project or something. And they weren't students that were on my courses. They were just, their project kind of sits under a more businessy sort of title. So they're going to sit with you for this module for the year. And the amount of musician performance students and production students I used to get, and they used to go, but we've not learned any of this. And it's just kind of like, and it's just not written into that side of the HE education for performance, but it is for the business and the event students. But of course, the business and event students don't get behind a desk because they want to be the people organising the events or signing the artists. So I don't know. It needs a combination. It needs a hybrid degree that has some performance and some business bolted together, really.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the most important thing, isn't it, with music education is, I mean, where I am, they've got like a careers department, they've got industry liaison, and they try to involve the students all of the time to get experience, because experience is really what talks when you go out with a CV. The most important thing is what we always say is it's kind of like creating a toolkit for people to be able to navigate anywhere once they leave.
Yeah.
So, they've just got the tools to kind of like, you might have studied guitar, but when you get out, all of a sudden you've got a toolkit where you could go and work in a record company if you wanted to. You could work in a live event because you've got that confidence. You understand different sides of business, and you can navigate it. And I think that's what is important. I think where I am, that's where we try to get into it. That's why they've got people like me working in the brands and the partnerships. They've got Nikki Williams working across the internships and the job opportunities. In fact, that was one of my things I did this morning was a meeting about internships and jobs in games, right? For instance, you need experience in games to get a job in games, you know what I mean? Things like that. So it's about providing the toolkit and then obviously trying to bring industry into the college. Some are good at it and some aren't. We try to do our best at it. And I suppose that's why I'm part of that team, because not only do I know all that stuff and I've done music ed for like 25 years, I'm also in a very successful band, right? That is still going and doing really well and done everything through all different types of deals in the industry. I even have my own record label. I've got my own merchandising company, things like that. So I've kind of got that experience as well to kind of bring in. And we have this thing we call the industry advisory group, where we bring in people from the outside to look at us and go, what's missing? And they go, oh, I think you should do this. I think you should do that. It's a day of telling us what to do, basically.
Oh, that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And also good to hear, because being part of that chat last week, it sounded like that's something that maybe live sound is missing, because essentially the people who are rocking up for the opportunities are finding a world that isn't the world they were expecting to rock up to.
Yeah, I suppose so. But you know what, though? When we were all kids, right, when we were at school and everyone said, right, you've got to leave now and get a job at like 16 or something, we didn't really know what was going to happen either. So they go, you got a job in so-and-so, and you go and start working there and you go, what the fuck is this? Right, all of a sudden, I got to go every day. I got to do this. I didn't think I was going to be cleaning the windows in the lunch hour as well as sweeping up and doing the job. Everybody hits the ground in a different way, and I think that's, that's the problem of all careers, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
That's why I have to form your own band. That's why I have to form your own band. So then you're the boss. You're in charge.
I suppose the only advantage when we started jobs is we hadn't arrived at that job with a 30 grand loan
Yeah.
that had just been taken out to pay for that 3 years worth of education that we'd had.
Yeah, exactly,
You know,
exactly. It's a tough
uh,
world, man. I tell you what, though, it is very hard out there, right? But you know what? It's there. There's still the opportunity out there if you work hard, right? I've never seen anyone that I know that's got, they've got something going for them who hasn't worked hard, not get anywhere, not get anywhere, because people, in general, I don't know, it's like old man things say like these days, think that a lot of things are accessible and easy and they only have to do a certain amount of work and they can break through. But it's not. It's harder to break through because there's so many people doing stuff. But if you work really, really seriously hard, right? That's the key. The key is hard work now. It's like anything. If you're in a band, if you're a guitar player, you have to be the best you can possibly be. If you're putting a band together, you have to do the best songs, the best recordings, the best image, the best, the best, the best, the best. And that involves lots of work, and hard work will always break through, I think. And that's one thing that is, that's remained the same from when I started, right? When I started doing the band, it was almost 99% impossible to be successful.
I was going to ask about that because I was sort of like reading your the I mean obviously I'm aware of Skunk Anansie and I'm the right age. I guess we're kind of similar ages, sort of thing. And I can remember you coming out in '94, I think it was. Yeah, and how very different you were as a band because you're multicultural for a start, which is very different. I mean, there's someone who read Kerrang from about the age of 12 onwards. Seeing women in it was rare, and seeing a black woman in it was even rarer, sort of thing. And I don't think that was any sort of like deliberate racism on behalf of Kerrang, Metal Hammer, Raw, or whatever those. It was just that there weren't any that kind of fitted in. I mean, there were women in Kerrang because they used to do that hideous stuff with Lisa Dominique and Lee Aaron and stuff like that, where it's, like in hindsight now, like slightly gratuitous photography, which isn't definitely something that Skin wouldn't have done. And you say it was almost impossible. You certainly didn't make it easy for yourselves, but I think that's what made you so good and so different.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. You have to work, the old cliche, you have to work twice as hard where you did because, we were like doing this, doing our own merchandise, doing our own this and that, working day and night. It was just like a constant, workflow of like hard work, right? And like living for that, living like with no money in a shitty place every day, turning up, writing, recording, gigging in shitty places, all that sort of thing. We did the whole lot, right? And it took a while to build all that up, but it did. And Kerrang were amazing. They picked up on us quite early and they totally supported us. I mean, you could say that Kerrang really broke us in a way, right? But the person that really broke us was Chris Evans.
Really?
Believe it or not, yeah. Chris Evans was the person that kind of put us on the map because we were like on the fourth single and we released Week, and he was like the man on the radio. And as there was no real internet, the radio was still a big force, and it was only one radio station in England type of thing. And he made a single of the week with Week, right, which was like put us straight into the top 10. Right, from obscurity in people's eyes to the top 10. And then Zoe Ball made it like the evening show or whatever she did, like the single of the week. And then, so that put us into the charts. And then he had TFI Friday and he invited us on there for every single we did for like 2 albums or something, right? And he championed us. And I think that he was the guy that broke Skunk Anansie, really. Kerrang was the press, because we got a bit of NME and Melody Maker, and sometimes they were good and sometimes they were bad, it depends, but it was all press, but Kerrang was like really positive from the start. And, we still know those guys now. Do you know what I mean? Like as friends after 30 years or something like this, but they've always been really good with us. And so And because Kerrang was the only alternative, like kind of, cult type of metal mag to everyone else out there, it was a love or hate magazine, wasn't it? Right.
Yeah.
People who loved it were really they had a good allegiance to Kerrang, and that's what made it strong for us because we were kind of a funny old kind of concoction of people doing alternative something rock metal, whatever it was, right? With different views to everyone else that wouldn't get onto mainstream radio or anything like this. And all of a sudden, we were kind of like part of their gang. And so, our shows started to do really well and sell out. And we won some awards and all that stuff is amazing. So if I would attribute the beginning of Skunk Anansie of the kind of discovery phase of putting us on the map, it would definitely be those two. And every now and then we bump into Chris. We went and played on his show not long ago. I think it was a couple of singles back. We went and played on his Virgin show, like, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the morning. We had to get there. It's crazy. And he's still the same. He's fantastic. He's always been brilliant to us.
You forget how influential he was at that time. You forget how many acts, because I'm thinking back, similar sort of time, thinking because they're just about to tour Moseley Shoals, Ocean Clussine for the 30th anniversary. There's a band that probably owe him an enormous debt of thanks because he absolutely championed, them for a couple of albums and will have made a huge amount of difference. And like you say, it's almost hard to think back to a time when, yes, that the radio in the car was such a massive, massive, massive thing.
Yeah.
Because at that point in time, I'm working for Sainsbury's, thinking that life can't get any worse as a graduate, doing those, cleaning windows in between lunch hours and what have you, all those jobs you described. And actually, the best bit of the day was the ride to and the ride back.
Yeah, and it's like you think about it now, right? We've got so many platforms that we can listen to something everywhere all the time. Millions of gatekeepers, this, that, blah, blah, blah. There was only one radio station, there's Radio 1, and then there was like the DJs, the main DJs. So you only had one person to get through. If you got through one person, you got a hit on your hands, haven't you? Right, that's it. It wasn't like I have to go break through like 10 different types of platforms with a million bands on, and it was like that one person. And the other person was Jules Holland. He was a good supporter of us. And we played Jules Holland again, this album that's just gone. And we've been on there for 20 years. Can you believe that? And it felt like yesterday, and we were talking to him on there, and it was like, oh my God, it's like 20 years since we were on that show. And that's a very important show, because there's not many shows like that left on TV, is there?
It's pretty much the only one, isn't it, these days? In terms of live performance on, I suppose, the 5 channels, before it all went mad. I think it's pretty much the only one.
You know what was great about that though, right? When we turned up, right, it was like, Led Zeppelin had entered the building, right? Because there was all these bands and they were all on in-ear monitors with no amps and like little drum kit and all this lot, right? So there's like 6 bands in there and his piano and all that lot, right? And it's in in an old theatre. And we had one whole wall, right? Because we brought our whole gear. It cost a fortune, because we paid for it. It cost about 10,000 quid to do it, right? But we had the whole wall. I had 4 or 6 Marshall cabs, all of the amps. Everything was mic'd up with the real deal, the drum kit, the keyboards, the 5 bass amp stack and all this stuff. And it was like a proper Skunk, concert that you would put into a venue that has 2,000-3,000 people. And it was really cool because you have an audience and they kind of sit above you, right? And then they just pump the stuff out through a PA in the roof, right? So all the other bands, when they play, they're kind of almost like silent on the stage, right? And it just kind of comes out. They're not pushing any air in the room. So when we came on, it just went kaboom. It's like there was a live band and air, moving in that room. And it was just like, whoa, the rock band have arrived, and it was really good. But the only thing about Jules is it's, as a musician, it's probably one of the most nerve-wracking shows you can possibly do in your life because you set up live in a circle and it's recorded in one go, right? In a circle. And they only stop it if something went wrong on the recording, right? So you're standing there ready to go like this, and then it goes, go. And you just have to start playing. So you're just praying because it's dead silent. You're praying that everything's turned on, it's all going to work, you know, and it's gonna be good. And the adrenaline and the nerves are like nothing. It's not like a live gig. It's not like it's really, really terrifying, right? But we did it, you know, and afterwards you're always a bit like, oh, I rushed that a bit, or I did this or whatever. But that was actually it was a good performance on there. I think I'm old enough now to deal with it.
Yeah, because some of the artists that are on there are so young, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was I can't remember. They had Heartworms was on there, Cynthia Erivo, CMAT. There was a guy. We were hanging with him afterwards, like a folk guy. I think he was married to Beth Orton. I think she was with him as well there. And I think there was maybe another act. I can't remember. But the nice thing about Jules is everyone's super nice and they're really friendly, and all the bands, and we're all like chatting and hanging out with each other, and you know, basically loving each other at the end. You know what I mean? Like, I love your band. I love your band. You're great. You're great. You know, it's all that. There's no negativity in Jules. It's just a really beautiful day actually.
Ah, cool. I was going to talk to you about your new album because I was listening to it yesterday, and I've really enjoyed it, but it's very
Mm.
different from what I was expecting. I'd read something in Classic Rock a couple of issues ago. There was an article about you, and it was saying that you'd moved to working with like an electronica producer sort of thing, and I didn't really know what to expect. Was that a deliberate decision to sort of like change the sound, or is it just like a natural evolving to that point?
I suppose it's both, right? Because we naturally keep on changing. Every record we make is kind of different in some way. We hadn't made an album for like 7 or 8 years, something like that. So in normal times, we might have made a couple of albums and slowly evolved to that point. I think
Mm.
we took that evolution out and we ended up at that point. So it seemed like a vast change. But we were always trying to find something new that's relevant to the time, for instance. And so when we did the album before that, it was relevant to that time, what was going on. So this time we just wanted, we listened to, we got new management. Our old management left and we got new management, and they suggested a bunch of people they thought would be good producers. So we listened to this list of people, and we had a couple ourselves, and everything we listened to by Dave Sitek, who's the guy that did this album, sounded great. Whether it was a metal band, a rock band, it wasn't, they didn't really do metal bands, but he did like punky and metal, and, punk and alternative and electronica. But everything sounded great. We were like, all these tracks are awesome. So we just said, well, let's give it a go. So we said to them, yeah, let's do it. And our manager came back and he said, I do know him, but he said he doesn't want to work with bands anymore. He only wants to work with artists, right? He's kind of had enough with working with bands, but he is a big Skunk fan, right? Because he was in a band called TV on the Radio.
Oh, I
And
remember them.
yeah, exactly. So they said he's a big Skunk fan. So he said what he wants to do is invite you over to his studio, which is in LA, in his house, basically, for a couple of weeks and just hang out, right? And see if it can work. Right. So we went there and we just basically hung out. We were like basically having a drink and eating barbecue and playing music and listening to tracks and stuff like that, and doing some recordings and little bits and pieces and testing things out. And we came out with a bunch of things, right? Like a couple of good songs and bits and pieces. And it just really was so different that it was really interesting. And for us as musicians, it was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But I didn't know whether people would like it or not. But at the same time, that kind of gave me an idea that maybe people will like it because I don't know whether they'll like it. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes when you're unsure, it's usually the best thing. Because when you watch all these music documentaries, they all say the same thing. They go, oh, we didn't know if anyone would like it. And it's our number one album, you know. So it was like that. So we hung out, we did some songs, and I think we got 4 done or something like that. And we kind of put them together, and we got offered a new record deal on the back of that. So we said, let's just go and just do the whole album with him. So the next couple of sessions, or main one, we just went and we didn't pressure anybody. No one had to be in the room at the same time. You could go off and come back in the morning, or you could come in late in the afternoon, or whatever, as long as you were there for kind of your parts, really. It was about not having 5 people intensely in the room all the time, right? And I think that's kind of what he wanted. He didn't want to he didn't want that band thing because he did Liam Gallagher's albums and Jane's Addiction and all that type of stuff. So anyway, he decided he liked us, and we decided that it was going in a weird but kind of cool, different type of direction. And that's when we kind of buckled down to making the album. But the difference with this album is if you listen to it, it's very up to date, as in like the way music is these days. It's not all about verse, chorus, mid, late, double chorus, end, right? And it's not all about a big riff played all the way through or a guitar played all the way through. It's just about um, what feels right at the moment. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's like, does that feel good without mid, late? Yeah, okay, does that feel good like doing no choruses or three in a row? Yeah, that kind of feels good. So it's very modern in that sense because when you listen to a lot of modern music now, it doesn't follow all of the old traditional songwriting rules, you know.
Yeah, I was interested because you've just come off well, it's just, I say, I mean, the tour ended at the end of August, but quite a big tour, quite a lot of dates all over Europe and so on. How do the new songs fit in with the older songs when
You
you're
know
playing them
what?
live?
Really well, really well. We did 75 dates this year, so that was including the record store ones in the middle. I think we did about 10 or 12 shows in those. It's really actually seamless, right? And because the songs are kind of catchy, this album's like a catchy album, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hooky, short, poppy kind of record, right? Because they're hooky, short, poppy songs. You chuck them into a live set, they're instantly people can jump up and down to them, or they kind of catch the chorus quickly. So they've actually fitted in really well. We ended up, I think we're doing 5 off the new album live, and they kind of work with our sound as well because it didn't radically change the sound we had. I still play the same amps and guitars and all this stuff. It didn't radically musically change that much. So they don't. It's not like all of a sudden, oh, the sound's changed on stage. It's the same kind of instruments. But it's just new songs. So yeah, it's done really good. I mean, next time we go out, we'll probably introduce 2 or 3 more.
I like that. I wish more bands would do that. I mean, I suppose it's my age, but you go and see a lot of bands that you've been a fan of for a long time, and it's kind of, it's just like it's the same set that you saw 2 years ago and the same set that you saw 4 years ago,
Yeah.
and so on. And it's just like I like your new album. Just play some stuff off the new album rather than just the one song.
Yeah, and you know what? When we did the album, right, and it's finished, I didn't know what to think of it, right?
Mm.
Because the way we made it was so weird. It was so disjointed and kind of like I would go in and they would go like, yeah, play this, right? And I go, great, right? And I'm just tuning up, right? And then I'm going like, okay, what do you want? And they go, oh, you've done it. And I'm like, but I don't think it was in tune. And they're like, yeah, but the vibe was there, right? And I'm like, great, well, okay, they'll probably edit it a bit and tune it, right? But they didn't. They left it as it is. And so some tracks I would play and they would go, yeah, that's fine. You can, go and chill now. And I go outside or I'd go back to the hotel or whatever. And I'd go, what did I just do there? Because I actually improvised 99% of that album. It was played there and then on for cuff because they threw all the old parts away and we just put all new parts to what felt right. So they
So
were like, yeah, they
is
were
that
like, play something on this. I was like what? What do you think? Like this?
I'm assuming, given that you're the songwriter, that actually a lot of and listening to the earlier stuff, it's quite guitar driven,
Hmm.
and the new album, you can hear the guitar, but it's not guitar driven. So
Not at all. Not
it,
at all.
it must be really weird because you've gone from being like the lead instrument to not necessarily being the lead instrument on
Yeah,
certain
and
tracks.
you know what? That's all right because it's 30 years in, right? If it was second
Yeah,
album, maybe I'd be complaining, right? But
yeah.
30 years in, I'm like, hey, I've made a lot of records, I've done a lot of tours. I'll take a chance with this record. So when I came out and people said, how's the new album? And I go, I don't really know. What do you think of it? And I don't really know. I think people have got to tell me. People have got to listen to that and tell me what they think because I don't really know. And I would go into the session, right? And we might have written a song and it had all these parts in it. And then, they would have rearranged things and all this sort. None of the parts work in it anymore. All right. And then they put some keyboards in or some electronic stuff. It doesn't really go with what we had. So they just go, play something on top of this. And I'd be like, what? And they would be like, well, what fits? And I go, I don't know. And I'd jam a few things. And that would be the basis of it. And we would do a couple of things. And they go, okay, that's enough. And I'm like, there's barely anything on it. They were like, yeah, but it sounds good at the moment because we've got space in it. We'll call you back up if we need any parts. And I'm like, okay, so I'd go on that basis. So it's all improvised. And then they said, actually, we don't need any more parts because it's like a it's like a spacious album. It's got a lot of spacing in it. It sounds good for the vocal. And I'm like, well, I'm cool with it. If everyone else is happy in the
Yeah.
band that it sounds good and you don't need any more stuff, I'm quite happy to sit and let let it roll basically because if it's good, it's good. And it's as I said, when you go out on the live circuit, you're playing all the stuff from the old albums anyway. So it's not like you feel like you haven't got enough to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just wondered that, after 30 years, is it quite refreshing for it to be very different? I mean, you could have gone
Yeah.
down the AC/DC route and just made the same album 19 times or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But actually, as a musician, it must be quite exciting to 30 years in take a proper left turn and do something very different.
Yeah, you know what? You have to kind of mentally kind of relinquish that control. Do you know what I mean? Because you know what it's like being a guitarist in a band. You're right. You are like a main instrument and you shape the sound, right?
Mm.
Because you'll play the riffs, you'll play the rhythms, you'll play the guitar hooks, all these things, right? It shapes the sound of what a band is. So if someone says, forget what you've ever learned and now just go on my trip, you can get a bit upset about it, or you can just kind of relinquish your control and kind of like let go. And that's what I did with this record. I instead of getting uptight, going, "Oh, they've taken my riffs out," right? I was like, "Well, let me step back and say, I will trust you. I'll take a leap of faith." And one of the funny things was, there's a song on there called "Artist," right? And when we wrote "Artist," it was this just huge riff, right? Like this crazy indie riff. I suppose more like the Idols or something, right? And when we got in the studio, they were all messing around with it and stuff, and they were like, "Let's take that riff out, right?" And I said, "Okay," and I can replay it when we do it. So when we were doing it, right, they for some reason they just kept avoiding it, like "Oh yeah, you don't need to do that. Yeah, just do this, right?" And so I'm sitting around, right, and sitting around waiting to do this thing, and I'm kind of like having a drink, and I'm just waiting, and then they go, "Come in and do the guitar and artist." So I'm like, "Great, okay, here's my moment," and I'm not 100% sober, right? So I go in, and they pass me a guitar, right? So I haven't got my guitars there for a start, right? So they just pass me a Telecaster, and I'm like, "Great, okay." And they start the track, and they just go like, play, and I'm like, and it's completely different, right? The song is completely different, right? And they go, "Just play something," and I'm like, I hit the guitar, and I'm like, this is not in the tuning of the song. This song is tuned to C, right? Or something like that, or B, tuned to B, right? Because I played it on a 7 string, right? He's giving me a telly, right, in E. So I'm like, "Oh my God, what can I do?" All I can do is tune a Telecaster down to B, which means like everything's flapping off the thing, right? So I'm tuning it, right, at the same time as the track is running, and I'm doing this, right? And they're recording it, right? And then I hit some chords, and as soon as I get it in tune, I'm like, "Great, okay." I hit some chords, I go jang, jang, and it's all over the place. It's like sounds nuts, right? And they go, "Yeah, that's great. You've done it." And I'm like, "But I haven't even tuned up." Right? And that was it. That was the take, right? And the funny thing is when you listen to the playback of it, when I listened to the guitars on the stems, I thought they were going to do something special with them. They didn't. They just left the track as it was, how it was played live. They did that with all the stuff.
It's quite because it's the opening track, isn't it, on the album?
Yeah.
And it's quite a sort of it's quite a disjointed sort of sound. I don't really know how. I'm going to get to your sort of like describing pedals sort of sound. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like it is very angular. If that's
it's really mad. It's like that is like a pure combination. That's the first song we all did together with Dave, and we all went, "Whoa, this is nuts!" Somewhere in between, I don't know, Devo and something else. It's really mad. And the fact is, the guitar is like not quite in tune. Is the fact that it sounds so good. If it was absolutely perfect, bang on, it might sound a bit like studio. And then there's a little riff in it that goes do 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 in between the first second verse. I was actually bending the strings for tuning up there. So I was bending the string and then tuning it back up, and that's the part, right? So it was probably the easiest guitar part I've ever done in my life, right? But the most unexpected guitar part. And I actually really like it. I think it really, really works, you know. It's just,
Yeah,
that was straight off the cuff.
So
brilliant.
does that mean when you go out and you incorporate these songs into the set, you're effectively having to go back and probably learn the parts because you probably can't remember what you played in the moment?
Oh, yeah, I had to relearn all the parts on the album. Everything was improvised.
Right.
So I had to go back and relearn the whole lot. But the fact is, as Jason was saying, there's not much on there. It's
Right.
really quite minimal. It kind of does its job. It's like a songwriting type of guitar parts.
Mm.
And so to relearn them wasn't that hard because they were quite simple and there's so much space in there.
But before, what you would do is you'd go back, you'd kind of go into the studio with the songs worked up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You'd rehearse them almost as if you were taking them out on the road, and then you go into the studio and record them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we did that for a few albums, and we record them live in the room. We just have separation,
Yeah.
and then I'd go back in and overdub the solos,
Yeah,
and
the
things like that.
traditional way of working.
Yeah, so we did that for a few albums, and then we got to a point where we're going to like let's construct one in the studio. So we did that one where we kind of like did the drums, did the samples, did the this, did the guitars and parts, and that came out really well. But we decided we didn't want to do that again because it was hard work, right? And we went back to the traditional kind of play, you know the parts, go in, get really good sounds, and learn them. And then this one, we just threw it all out the window. It was like let's take a chance, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, you know.
Brilliant. Love it. Love that.
Has it been good for the band after 30 years together? I mean, I can't imagine being in a band for 30 years. I mean, the longest I've ever been in a band is probably about 5 or 6 years, and then that's it, and you've all fallen out and everything.
Yeah.
Is it good for the...
You fall out as a solo act, don't you?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Is it good for the four of you to have done something very different?
Oh, it's totally brilliant, isn't it? Because it's like revitalizes it all. When it gives you like something fresh, you don't feel like you're repeating everything. Then your live show is different because you have different kind of lights and effects and things that go off in those songs. So it mixes that up. If it's successful like it was, that hit the charts, we got top 10 and all that type of thing. We sold out the whole tour through Europe, you know. It's that brings life back into the band because not only is you're successful, a new record and all that lot, you're you have a different kind of audience coming to the shows. It brings a different energy. So yeah, I mean, bands are like kids, aren't they? You have to keep feeding them sweets, right, to keep them interested and happy, don't you? Right? Otherwise, everyone starts going, "Why am I doing this?" Don't they? If there's nothing new or success, oh, I feel like I'm clocking in and all that bullshit, right? So. But no, it's things like wins, quick wins and long wins are really good for bands because that's what kind of keeps you going,
Yeah, I was just wondering whether those years that you had off, what was it, 2001 to 2009 sort of thing, you did solo, Skin did solo, Mark joined Feeder. I don't know what Cass was doing.
He joined Gary Moore, didn't he? He's in Gary Moore's band. Yeah, yeah.
Ah, I didn't know that. So did that as well help when you got back together, sort of like 8 years later or whatever it was?
Yeah,
that
totally.
Actually, you got different perspectives on how different performers work.
Yeah, I mean, when it humbles you, obviously, because you know that like you've got a little diamond there that you weren't looking after, so you got to keep shining diamonds, basically. So it humbles you. You're like, you know what? We went out, we did our thing, and it wasn't as successful or whatever without the four of us, and the energy's different, right? So you learn that. So first of all, you learn how to be people together. That's a better thing. That's why we've been together so long now. I think we understand each other better about giving each other space and the way we work and the way we're all different. The other thing is we all went out and kind of got a new skill set. So I went out producing records. So I produced like 40 albums or something, 40 records in that time. And I released a couple of albums. And I also had a radio show as well for a few years. And so I was listening to all the new music and I was producing new bands. I had a mastering business. I was mastering a lot of local bands. So I was immersed in music for other people. Right. Did a couple of records myself, but that's, whatever that is. But yeah, I was immersed in the other side of it, like producing people and working with other people. So I brought all that skill set back into the band to be able to objectively stand away, and kind of like work things out, and everybody, I think, all kind of went away and kind of came back stronger. I think that was the it was a good break, and we didn't fall out with each other or anything like that. We just, funny was, we still had the same lockup, and I had the key, and all the gear was in there. Isn't that mad? It was like literally open the lockup and the gear is still in there, right? So it was very easy for us to reconvene, and it was and we were surprised how much love there was in the air for the band, that the tour sold out instantly, and it was just like, yeah, I mean, once you got back into it, you're like, actually, we were fools. We shouldn't have stopped. But maybe stopping was that thing that makes it go on for so long.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. I mean, you see so many sort of like retrospective interviews with people, and they go, I don't know why we just didn't take a break after that tour.
Yeah.
The band would have been much stronger, but the label, the management, whatever, just kept pushing and pushing and pushing to the point where it just all breaks apart. Irrevocably.
Well, there's a desperate momentum, isn't there? There's like this desperate momentum in music that it takes so long to crack into something. As soon as it starts moving, everybody's like, oh, you can't stop now, because if you stop now, you're gonna lose everything you built up for. And that's true to a certain extent, I think, so you have to kind of like make hay while the sun shines in music. It's like people always say to me, I don't know how you do it. You've got like all these jobs going on and you're doing the band, and I go, yeah, but I'm blessed at the moment. Nothing lasts forever. So while it's happening, and I'm a musician, if you can be successful as a musician, you can make money and have a living out of it. It's like, don't stop, you know what I mean? Because you're in a good position, stop when it stops. And I think that's what people do. They get worried about this thing when they're in a young band, that if they don't stop, if they stop, it's going to fall apart. So they push themselves too far.
Do you know what? I think that's a really good place to stop. That's a really positive message to end it on.
Great.
At the point when I said don't stop, we're going to stop.
Yeah. And it's the irony
I love the symmetry of that. It's great.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I mean, you know what? The only thing I would add at the end really is, anybody who's successful in music, right, what you will find is they've got a lot of things in common. One is they've all got incredible drive, right? Not everybody in the band is driven, right? Some people are carried and some people are driven, right? But anyone you meet that's successful, they've got an incredible drive, right? They're all quite charismatic, right? Because, you have to build your network within the industry to kind of get certain places, and the other thing is they have absolute passion for music, right? And you cannot get through this industry if you do not have the passion, right? The passion is the driving force. It's like, as soon as this ends, there's no doubt I will go upstairs in my little studio and I'll turn some music on and potter around doing something, right? Or if I get in my car, I'll be blasting out an album, something like that. I play guitar, I mess around with pedals, I listen to music all of the time, right? And that is the number one thing that started me and the one thing that drives me as well. And I've met that. Everyone I've met that's successful in music has that passion, that drive for music.
Yeah, completely agree.
Ace, that was fab. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
Great to catch up with you. Hopefully we'll see you soon, Jace. I will catch you next time.
Thank
Brilliant.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at the Guitar Show UK. This has been an Ace Short Stories production.